Yes.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Purpose Over Pleasure. And today I'm your host, Alex Payne, and I have a pleasure of talking to a good friend of mine, Sean. Sean, welcome. Thank you for finding the time to be here. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Alex. I'm excited.
Okay. Now the viewers might be asking why are we both wearing the same hat, right? That says it's a beautiful word smile on it. I'm gonna let you elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, my wife is a dentist, and I'd seen another hat that I had, and it said "serve," and I bought it, and I was like, "Man, what a great message! I'm just going to wear this hat because it says serve. It reminds me to serve, and and it points out to other people." And if nothing else, while I'm wearing it, it keeps in the back of my mind that I better be acting congruently with a message. Um, otherwise I'm an imposter, right? And and I will give credit. Rich Froning, it's his hat that says "serve." So one day it just came to me like, we're at a dentist's office, like why not just put a hat out that says "smile"?
Yeah.
Also a good message. It just kind of reminds people to smile. And there's been a couple times in the airport, especially in Dallas. I think people are so used to cameras now
hmm
that I'll come up the escalator. It's usually right at the top of the escalator in Dallas, and people will be getting off the tram, and they'll see the hat and they'll smile real big and they'll start looking for cameras, like
That's
I'm
awesome.
walking around with a crew and something crazy
Yeah.
is about to happen. But really, it's just to I just think it's fun for people to smile, and that's something we want to do. And and my wife makes beautiful smiles, so
Yeah.
it all
I
fits
can
in
tell.
with the business. Thank you.
Yeah, I can tell. Look at your beautiful smile, man.
Yes, she does good
You
work.
know, yeah, she does. She's a lovely lady. I met her. I met her. No, I took this hat with me to Bali last week when I was on
Yeah,
vacation. Yeah, I was rocking that hat over there in Bali. Somebody actually asked me
awesome.
about it. I think I also at the airport. Oh, it's a nice hat. What does it mean? I was like, it means what it says. Smile. you know?
That's right. Just smile.
Yeah, just
Just
smile.
be happy, man.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like I said, Sean, thank you for being here. I know you have a busy schedule. You're a father of five, businessman, and just got a lot on your plate. But thank you for being here. And for those who don't know, me and you, we met at the Battle Ready photo shoot where we had our peak transformation period when we both went from unfit, unhealthy to we got in really good shape, man. And I
Yeah.
remember Byron made us break a sweat that day, dude. Remember?
Oh man, he made me do more than sweat. It was a lot of fun though.
Yeah, shout out to Byron, man. Remember how
Yeah.
he stood on the little, I forgot what that exercise is, but when he stands on a little podium and you have to pull it with the rope.
Yeah, he stood on the sled
Yeah,
with the weights.
yeah.
I think it was like 400 pounds.
Yeah, well, Byron himself is like 250 pounds or
Yeah.
something like that. So he made you work for it, bro.
Yeah, he did. It was
It was
fun
good.
though. And those pictures
Yeah,
came out great.
yeah, it was awesome. Oh, good stuff, good stuff. But what I wanted to ask you is, and this is for my viewers, and like I told you earlier, I want you to come here on my platform and share your story. I find your story absolutely fascinating. I think as a man, you've overcome a lot of crazy challenges in your life. Your story is fascinating, and to be able to see someone like you overcome what you went through and end up on top, end up father of five beautiful children and great marriage and a businessman, and just overall, you have a great personality. You always walk around smiling. I got mad love and respect for you. I think your story is fantastic, and I was going to ask you if we can kick this call off with you sharing your story, the same story that you shared, amongst us men in our group for one of the calls. You mind diving into that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it all starts. It's important, I guess, for my story to point out that my childhood was I don't know if it's normal or I don't know if it's good, but it was good normal, right? It was there was nothing abnormal about it. My dad was very present for athletics. He would work really early so he could get off early so that he could coach every team that I or my brother or my sister were on. They were present at every activity we had, everything that we did. We weren't wealthy, but I don't know that we actually needed anything or didn't have anything that we needed. And so it was a good childhood. I had a Christian upbringing. God was the center of our family. And, and then for whatever reason, uh, you know, I say all that because a lot of times when what comes next happens, people question, well, what went wrong, right? And so there was nothing really that went wrong in all of that. I graduated um, upper part of my class in high school, and went off to college at Florida State. Had an amazing first year of college. From a social standpoint, I had a great 1 year party where I didn't learn anything academically, but but I had a great year. Had a very expensive 1 year party, um, and during that time, I met a girl. We had a great relationship. She ended up getting pregnant. She chose to have an abortion, which really is the precipitating factor in what framed the rest of my life. That was something that really devastated me. I there was nothing that I could do. My dad came to town. Her mom came to town. They talked. There was really no persuasion. And as a man, uh, I have no voice in that argument. Like they say, no uterus, no voice. It doesn't matter if it's my child. I have no voice. And so what ended up happening in my life is, I basically spent the rest of that school year in my dorm room, just kind of staring at the wall. I had a roommate who brought me food. Nobody really knew what was going on, but obviously there was something going on. Failed out of college, um, came back to Louisiana where I live, and tried to start over with school. Try to put all that behind me, like it's common to say, you know, just put your head down, work through it, move on.
Like
And
men do.
so, right, like men do. And that's how my dad is. Like that's
Old school.
the man. Yes. And so that's the male presence that I had was, we've done everything we can do. There's nothing we can do about it. It's time to move on. Um, and so that's what I tried to do. And I had a pretty good next first year of college here at home, and then things just started slipping, and I got involved in I was partying pretty heavily. Then I started drinking, or then I started doing drugs. You know, it was started out with cocaine, moved into ecstasy. I was bartending. I was actually working in a restaurant at lunch, working in a different restaurant at dinner, bartending at night, and then going out partying all night. So by the time, my experience with ecstasy got to a head, I was taking 6 to 7 ecstasy pills a night, every Thursday, every Friday, every Saturday night. Um, and just continued going. And then, at some point after that, we were introduced to meth, and, that kind of took everything to a whole new level, to where I ended up, um, in about a 7 year meth addiction. I think I dropped 80 pounds in about 4 months, and, and just kept going. And I kept going beyond when the friends that I was hanging out with, woke up and stopped doing all that stuff. They got through their party phase. It wasn't really a phase for me. It was like my life. um, and uh, it wasn't like, easy going either. It was everything that came with it. You know, I would steal, I would, lie. Um, I would borrow money and never pay it back. It got to the point where, and I was gambling, which is, a pretty big part of it too. So I was obviously getting fired from every job that I had. And I was losing all of my friendships. And then we got to the point in 2005 where everybody had had enough. My family had kind of, to protect themselves. I say that genuinely and respect them for that. And that's what I would tell any parent right now who came to me and said, "Hey, I don't know what to do. This is where my kid's at." I would say, look, it's not your responsibility to do anything other than let them know you love them and to protect yourself from them. And that's a sad thing to say, but that's the truth, and that's what my parents did. And so I was homeless. I did have a job, and I stayed up late working in the restaurant, closed it down, took the money from the till, gambled it in the machines that were at the restaurant, lost it, and got a call the next day to not go anywhere. Turn in my keys, not go anywhere because the cops would be coming, and that was just it. And so there was a hotel right next to the restaurant that I was working in, where the employees were all able to stay because we'd had a really bad hurricane. And so to keep the restaurant open, to feed all of the first responders, FEMA was paying for a hotel. And so I had a room, and I just kind of went back to the room to wait for the cops to come. And, and I used the rest of the meth that I had, and I really just expected to overdose. I can remember the room that I was in had one light bulb, because I'd used all of the other light bulbs as meth pipes. And it had a "Do Not Disturb" sign on the door for 2 weeks, so it was filthy. And I just remember after I used the rest of the drugs that I had, I remember laying down on the carpet in front of the bathroom mirror, um, and just like being like, "This is it. Like, this is where I die." And I didn't really care. And I don't say that like I realized that I just laughed at that, and I don't think it's funny, but it's just occurred to me that it wasn't me dying that would have bothered me. It was me being found dead in a hotel room and the embarrassment that would cause my family that bothered me. I didn't have anything else in my mind at that point to live for. I didn't have any reason to really care for my own standard if I lived or if I died. Um, but but I didn't want to embarrass my family, and that has probably been what had kept me going for as long as it had. But I was at a point where I expected I was going to jail, so I don't know that was even something that was motivating me to continue beyond anymore. Um, and I laid there and I prayed, and 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 of all the times that I'd prayed, "Hey God, help me out of this one more time, and I'll never do it again. Help me out of this one more time, and I'll make everything right." All the prayers that everyone has found themselves praying once in their life. Just get me through this situation, and I'll help me get a home run here, and I'll practice baseball more or whatever. And but it was more of, I just want forgiveness, because if I'm going to die, I don't want to go to hell. And what ended up happening was different than my expectations. I woke up the next day, and it was there was just this feeling that I should go into my truck and look for this pamphlet that I'd had for several years for a treatment facility. So I'd been living out of this truck, on and off for years. And somehow in the back of it, there was still a piece of paper, because I was hoarding, I guess, like a pamphlet from a treatment facility that I picked up at a recovery meeting many years before that day. And it was in there, and I grabbed it, and I came back to the hotel room, and I called, and they had a room or a bed, and they could get me in that day. And so I just kind of took off. I was able to get somebody to fill my gas tank, and I went, and
In that truck?
yeah, yes, and I went in that truck, and that truck had been neglected for at least 5 years. It had not had an oil change. It had not. The fact that it was still rolling was incredible. And I went from where I live, which is at sea level, with zero elevation anywhere around here, no matter how far you walk, to going through the hills to get to the north of Louisiana, and through the forest where there is nothing. And I just knew that my truck was going to die in the middle of this forest, and it didn't die in the middle of the forest, and it made it up the hills, and it made it down the hills, and I made it to the treatment facility in Shreveport, Louisiana, on Stoner Avenue. I'm not making that up. A treatment facility on Stoner Avenue, and I pulled in the parking lot, and the truck died.
Wow.
And
Wow.
and I had to, like, I just got goosebumps every time, and I had to push it into a spot, and so I pushed it into a spot, and I went inside, and I was like, hey, I need to call my dad. And they said, well, your dad has already called, and they're going to be here this weekend, and they hadn't talked to me. I told them where I was going. I don't know that they said anything when I called, but I did call them and let them know what my plan was. But we hadn't talked in at least weeks, and that was the response, was that they were already, they'd already put everything in motion to be there at the first available opportunity. And they were, and they were there every weekend, the entire time I was there, which was about 7 weeks. And and that was the real beginning to the rest of my life. It was what I needed, and that's why God put me there. But I came out of treatment, and I planned to go to the military, because one of the things you learn in treatment or in recovery is remove yourself from people, places, and things.
Yeah.
And so the best way to get away from the people, places, and things was to just leave. And so I was going to go to the military, and so I started training, and like that's all I did. I worked so that I could buy protein powder and supplements and pay for a gym membership so that I could train and get ready to go to the military, to the Army. And and I was working at a restaurant, uh, and the guy that owned it he was a young guy at the time, still younger than me, but we got to know each other. We were very similar in how we thought, and and everything, and so we hung out a lot after work, and one night he said, why don't you not go to the military, but instead stay here and just work for me for the rest of your life? And that was the first time it occurred to me that I didn't have to go to the military. But it also sounded absolutely horrible. Kudos to people who work in the restaurant business, um, as a career. I think that's amazing. I think it's something everyone should do at some point in their life.
Yeah.
But for me, the thought of doing that for the rest of my life sounded horrible. And something clicked. And so I went ahead and enrolled in school, got back in college. I'd failed out of college 3 times. But I got back in college, and I went, did great. Didn't really have a plan other than, as a child, I always wanted to be a lawyer. And so, then I should back off and just say real quick that nothing ever came of me going to jail. When I got out of treatment, I contacted the restaurant manager. I explained to him, everything where I'd been and all that, and made retribution to the restaurant, and he wished me luck, and that was the end of that. So I didn't want to be a lawyer because of the amazing things that lawyers had done for me. I'd never had any criminal experience at all. I just had always wanted to be an attorney. I think I was like 7 and I was arguing with an aunt, and she said, "You should be a lawyer." And that set in motion my path for my entire life or something. So, so I finished undergrad. I applied to law school, and I got in to multiple law schools. And and I really believe the reason that I got in is because, part of the law school application process is you have to write a personal statement, which for the position that I was in or that I'd put myself in, was a really difficult thing for me to try to figure out how to do. And I prayed about it a lot. And I finally came to the conclusion that the only thing I could do was just like lay everything out on the table. And if God wanted me to go to law school, then I was going to go to law school. And that's exactly what I did. Like I wrote personal statements just saying, this is the person that I've been, and this is the person that I am. And I probably had the lowest GPA ever accepted to LSU law school.
Mm-hmm.
But I got in, I got out, and got a job. After a couple of years, I started my own law firm, and had tremendous success, way faster than is normal. And I hated it. Like it's a common story, I think, for people that you hear that you start making the money, and you realize this isn't what I thought it was.
Yeah.
And I loved helping people, and I loved that people wanted me to help them. Like they believed they could depend on me. and that they could depend on me. But but it wasn't fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
And and so for years, my wife, I met my wife. I'd actually met my wife when I was in the height of my addiction. She didn't know that at the time. And I asked her out repeatedly for 7 years. And she always said yes, but always backed out at the last minute.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I was in my last year of law school that I finally um, convinced her not to back out. And we went on a date, and we've
Mm-hmm.
been together ever since. So we got married. And she is a dentist. She has her own business, and we kind of realized like she loves what she does,
Mm-hmm.
and I really did not like what I was doing. I was at that point doing it because it was good money, and
Mm-hmm.
I was good at it. Um, and we wanted to have kids, and it just didn't make sense for both of us to be working, 60, 70, 8 hours a week, building businesses and paying other people to take care of our children.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it was a lot of struggle internally, a lot of struggle, honestly, with masculinity, a lot of struggle with identity. If I am to stop being a lawyer, which is all I ever thought I wanted to do, and not be the breadwinner, um, then who am I as a man, right? Um,
Yeah.
and and there was all these questions from other men, and then the perceived judgment from other men because if I'm not providing for my family financially,
Yeah.
um, even though there's so many other ways to provide, to provide for a family to work, um, then it's really emasculating. Uh,
Yeah.
and so that was a huge internal struggle that kept me hanging on to that law career for 5 years longer than after the decision was made that I was going to pull back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like 5 years and three kids longer. And so, but finally, in 2021, um, I just did it. And I stopped taking cases or clients in August of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And am now, on a new journey, I guess. And that, that kind of brings us to how you and I met because,
Yeah.
because in August of 2021, when I was, when I stopped taking clients, and so it took me till about July of 2022 to 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 finish up most of that work, and and then it was over, and then I didn't know I didn't know who I was, I didn't know what I was doing. It actually led to depression and
Mm-hmm.
and a huge loss of identity and not knowing what I was going to do next, even though knew that this is the right decision for my family. This is the right
Yeah.
decision for me. Um, there was just no direction, and I didn't know what I was going to do next. And that's when, um, I listened to a podcast, and I heard about the Squire program that
Mm-hmm.
that Bedros and Ray Care and those guys do for young men as a coming of
Yeah.
age
Yeah.
program. And I was like, man, I want my boys in that. But as I listened more and more, I was like, how can I put my boys in something like that if I've never done anything like that? And I dug deeper into it, and that's when I found the Modern Day Night Project, and so I called and signed up for that, and then I signed up for. Then I was like, well, I'm not in any condition to go through 75-hour crucible. Like, I will just die. And
Yeah.
I mean, I was probably 280 pounds,
Yeah, you were a
and
big boy, dude.
couldn't do much of anything physical. And so that's when I signed up for Battle Ready, and which is now at the Agoge. And I started talking to Byron, and I started getting into that, and really working. And there's been some delays because I broke my foot, um, but I'm still on track to go to the MDK project in March of 2024, and that all kind of led us to you and I meeting at the Battle Ready photo shoot, and then again in Costa Mesa
Yeah,
at BK Live.
we get live shit. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. I love that story. And what fascinates me the most about the story is that you made the decision yourself. And what I found interesting, and this is my question to you, do you think, because you mentioned that you had previous talks with God before, let me get through the situation, I promise I'll be good. But then it came down to you really like praying to God, just just being honest with him, and then your truck that you said yourself you didn't have any gas, somebody filled it up for you, and you expected it to just die and not work, and it took you from the hotel room all the way to the Stoner Avenue, and
yeah,
then overall everything that's happened to you, and you have a cross behind you right now. So my question to you is, as a man to man, do you think it's important for a man or for anybody to really give your life to God and to really have this honest conversation with God? Doesn't matter what you practice, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism,
yeah,
whatever it is.
yeah, man. I mean, I think that you have to have something greater than yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and for me, there's no question that that's God. Um, but I think that there has to be something greater than Sean,
Yeah.
in order to be able to um, move beyond average, or move beyond even less than average. Maybe I don't think I think it's impossible for a man to achieve greatness if the greatest thing the man believes in is himself. I think that
Mm-hmm.
I think that you know we have to believe in something greater than us
Mm-hmm.
in order to be able to really excel in life.
And that's fantastic, dude. I absolutely love it. And let me clarify this for our viewers. It's not the same as not believing in yourself. You absolutely 100% have to believe in yourself when you're moving towards what you want to do. What you're talking about is that believing in something greater than you, believing in, I would call it purpose
Yeah,
for you, for your existence in this life. That's what I think we're talking about, believing in the purpose and in a higher power, but it's something that you were placed on this planet to achieve and to do and to create. Like in your situation, it's what you were able to overcome and to be here today to create this wonderful family of yours and the business and spread the message. And correct me if I'm wrong on that.
no, no, no. Like, I think that it's imperative that you believe in yourself, but um, so so it's imperative that I believe in myself, but because God is so much more powerful than me, the belief that God has in me is so much more powerful than the belief that I have in myself. And so the things that
Wow.
God can put in my place, like the opportunities
Yeah.
and a lot of people will say, and I think it's all tied together, but I have this conversation often. A lot of people will say, call it abundance mindset versus scarcity mindset, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And what I call it is God, and I believe that God puts opportunities in front of all of us. I think
Hmm.
that God puts opportunities in front of people who believe that they have never had an opportunity. The problem is when we believe that we are the center of everything, it's impossible to see those opportunities for what they are. And I think, you know, God provides for the people who have opened their hearts to be able to see that God wants that for you. And
Hmm.
so if we get too tied up in ourselves, then to say, well, this is what I want, but it's not happening.
Hmm.
And that may be true. But when we begin to believe that this is what God wants for us,
Hmm.
and you don't have to be a believer to understand this concept, because everybody can understand whether they want to accept it or not. The abundance mindset, right? That it's there, the opportunity is there. But if we shut our minds off to that opportunity, if we shut our hearts off to God and what God is trying to provide for us,
Hmm.
because He does want great for all of us, and that doesn't mean that bad things won't happen, right?
Hmm.
That doesn't mean that that people we love won't die, in crazy ways when they're not old that don't make sense.
Yeah.
That people won't get cancer. It doesn't mean that, and I'm not here to try to pretend that I know the answer to, why do bad things happen to good people. I don't know, but what I do know is that in addition to all that stuff, God wants amazing things for everyone. And the people who believe in God and the people who believe that He loves us and He wants those things begin to be able to see them when they happen. And it's sometimes is the most simple thing that if it's not pointed out to you, maybe you don't even recognize it.
Yeah.
But um but but it's there, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger the more you're open to seeing that that these potential happen. And look, and that's why I'm here right now, right? Like, there's small things and small steps that have happened. And there were years when I would not have shared my story to anyone outside of my wife, my best friend, my family,
Hmm.
because it could destroy my career, is what I thought.
Yeah.
And then in 2018, in God, I mean, like, internally, God pushed me, like, you need to share your story. You need to share your story. You need to share your story. And I was like, nope, not doing it. Like, I want nothing to do with that. Like, I don't want to go to court the next day and have other attorneys or judges or staff or whatever looking at me as this piece of shit who, did all these things and was a drug addict.
Hmm.
Um, and then in 2018, my cousin overdosed on heroin, and I knew he was struggling. And I had talked to his mom about his struggles, but I'd never opened up about mine, and I'd never reached out to him about mine. I'd never reached out to him to say, hey, I just want you to know you're not alone, like, and you can get past this. And at that point, I was clean and sober, and I was an attorney, and he was much younger than me, and he was struggling, and I didn't say anything, and he overdosed on heroin. And so I before I got on the airplane to go to his funeral, I sat down on my computer and I just, like, prayed, and I just started typing, and I typed out I don't know, somebody called it a testimony on Facebook about my past, and just letting people know I didn't want that to happen to anybody else. And I hit post, and then I shut my computer down. I shut my phone off, and I went and cried because I was like, what did I just do? And that fear, and And what happened was the opposite. Like that thing was shared 34,000 times
Wow.
and like all over the world. And,
Wow.
and like people from all over the world were commenting, you know, and it was just this really surreal experience that is impossible without God. Like that's not something that happens to, I mean, you know, you're in this space. Like, how hard would it be for you to go post something that gets shared 34,000 times? Like,
Yeah.
people try to do it all day, every day, and can't. And
Yeah.
so, and I was nobody. And so, so I think that opened up the opportunity for me to say, okay, I can talk about this. Like, and not only can I talk about this, I can talk about this and people won't judge me for it. I'm sure some people judge me for it and
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
But, but I might be able to help one person. And if I can help one person, then, then 10 other people judge me for it. I'm cool with that. You know,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
something that, really long answer to a really short question, but
Yeah.
the answer to your question is I think that once you once once a person accepts that there is a higher power, you know, which I'll refer to as God, you know,
Hmm.
then the possibilities become so much greater uh, for greatness in life.
I love it. I love it. You said something so amazing yet so simple just now. You said God's belief in you is so much greater than your belief in yourself. Like God's belief in us is so much greater than our own belief in us. And to me, that's just so fascinating. You know, so many times we get into our own head, we stop ourselves, we're too scared, we have doubts, we have anxiety. But in reality, God's like, no, I put you on this planet, and there's purpose for you here, and you can do phenomenal things. You just have to believe in yourself the same way I believe in you, and understanding that God has such amazing and strong belief in you that it's a force that impossible to reckon with. It's that's all you need in life essentially. Just move forward. You know, it's get out of your own head, move forward because God is on your side. What better teammate would you want on your side than the big guy upstairs,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I love it, man. I love it. You also touched on something. You said you had like a masculinity slash identity crisis. And I think what you talked about is it's a very common thing to do, and it borderline is a controversial topic where as men we're protectors and providers, as fathers, as husbands, as leaders, and for you to be able to take that massive leap of faith and just fall and just follow your gut feeling despite what the society says or will says or how they will judge you. Can you elaborate to me a little bit about that? What did you mean by saying you had a masculinity crisis?
Yeah. Well, you know, I grew up in a very traditional family. My dad worked. My mom was a stay-at-home mom
Hmm.
until until my youngest sister was almost out of high school. My mom went back to college and became a teacher. So
Hmm.
for our entire childhood, she was a stay-at-home mom. And it wasn't just my family. Like that was the majority of the people that I knew. That was just how it was. And obviously some of their moms worked, but um,
That's how it was back in the days. That's
yeah,
how it was.
it
Yeah.
just wasn't like, you know, it wasn't like the situation that I'm in where, um, you know, and it's a very great situation to be in, but my wife and I both had really good jobs, had our own businesses. We both made plenty of money. And as awesome as it would be to just like make money, make money, make money, um, you know, there was a limit to what I don't want to say that. There was opposing forces between how much money we needed to be able to do the things we wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
and um, like the time that we needed to be able to be the parents we wanted to be. And so, which is a great position to be in. And I understand not everybody's in that position. Um, but so it made sense from a rational, the way men think, like rational logic. Like it made sense. Hey, we don't have to do this. I hate my job. Um, and I think the issue was I didn't have a plan as to what I would do next. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, uh, and so when I stopped being a lawyer, then I stopped being like, that was the identity that I'd had from the time that I got out of law school.
Yeah.
I mean, my identity was, kid, drug addict, college student, law student, lawyer. That's how I had identified. I had identified as what I did rather than who I was. And
Mm-hmm.
so once I lost what I did, I no longer had an identity. Um, and so I was no longer the provider, um, at least in the eyes of the outside, which had an impact on me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that was very emasculating because, uh, by all appearances, it was as though I was a stay-at-home dad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there were other things going on in the background. Actually, at that point, there were no other things going on in the background, and I think that was the issue: is that I was a stay-at-home dad,
Mm-hmm.
um, and and that's not what God created me to be. Um, God created me to be an amazing father, and He has blessed me with two biological children and three adoptive children, and so many opportunities every day to practice um, getting better at being a father. Um, but I'm very clear, especially after 10 weeks this summer of just me with five kids in Colorado while Michelle worked here in Louisiana, that I was not put on this earth to be a stay-at-home dad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's I was meant to create.
Yeah.
I was meant to do something that shows my kids the value of work.
Mm-hmm.
And so being in that position, in that initial position of just being lost on what do I do next? Like, who am I now that I'm not a lawyer?
Mm-hmm.
We made the jump from this is what should happen and did it. Now what? And so it kind of ate me up, and I don't really even remember what I did. Like, I feel like I don't think I did much. Like, I must have walked around the neighborhood because I remember listening to that podcast while I was walking around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
But I think I was just like lost and like waiting for something to fall into my lap.
Yeah.
And back to believing that God provides. Like, that's exactly what happened. And while I was walking around the neighborhood, listening to a podcast, it all just kind of clicked into place. And one thing after another happened that led me down a path of, to kind of where I am now. And now, I'm starting my own podcast on fatherhood. I am starting a book on fatherhood. We are working to grow my wife's business. I've taken more of a leadership control in the business side of that.
Hmm.
to grow her business well beyond the, just a normal local solo dental practice.
Yeah.
And and there's a lot of fun things coming. Um, and I've kind of started to define that purpose, and I say it that way because I believe that it's an evolution. And so I don't want to say I've defined my purpose, because then when I stop doing that, I'm back in the same position I was in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I believe that our entire family is evolving, in a very positive way, towards some really exciting things.
That's great. That's great. God's willing, you know.
Yeah, and he
I
is.
think, yeah. It's funny you mentioned that you were lost after you left your career and you felt lost and you kind of just gave up and you were walking around the neighborhood and you just came clean to God again and you put things into places where they belong, right? I couldn't help but remember when I was in college myself, I was supposed to be a doctor, you know.
Yeah,
So I come from a family of doctors, and I remember towards the end of my undergraduate career, studying bio and chemistry and getting ready to take the test to go into med school, et cetera, et cetera. By that time, I was already volunteering at the hospital, so I got to see what the medical field is really about, and I realized it's not for me. It was not for me, and I was so lost. I just remember driving one time in the car just around campus, and I just cried. I cried and I started praying. I was like, God, I'm lost. I'm confused. I don't know what the hell to do. I thought this was me. This was my identity. This is going to be me, the student, the future doctor, coming from a family of medical workers and doctors, and it's not me. And I just asked him for guidance. That's all I did. I asked him for guidance. I didn't ask for this is what I want or give me that. Just help me figure it out. And somehow he helped me figure it out. I don't know exactly what happened, what steps to happen, but I ended up taking different classes, meeting different people, and fast forward, 5, 10 years down the line where I am today. I love what I do. I love my career, and I'm in business and my podcast, and just being able to help people. It's it goes back to what I talked about earlier with you. It's just, you just have to come clean to God and ask for guidance. And so many times we're so quick to, like you mentioned, think that we're the shit, that we're the most important person in the world. We're really not. We're really not. We just have to understand that we're placed on this planet with purpose and for a reason. And at some point, you just have to relax and stop fighting the current. So many times I've had situations where I wanted to do something and I would work for it. And I thought, this is it. This is what I want. This is what's going to change my life. And God thought otherwise. That door would not open. And I'd be pissed. I would be just frustrated. And I'd be like, you know what? Just whatever, fine. Just as long as you show it to me later. Because like Steve Jobs said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward, right?
yeah,
And looking back at those things now, it's like, man, this is the best freaking thing that happened to me. It changed my life for the better. Me fighting it back then, it was like I was a child. And now fast
right,
forward 5, 10 years, that made so much sense. And again, because he upstairs knew what's better for me. And it's
yeah.
crazy.
I'm
Crazy.
curious if coming from a family of doctors, when you made the decision not to go down that path. Um, did you know at that time that you wanted to go into law enforcement?
No.
Like, was it a
At
clear
that
turn from, medical profession to law enforcement?
No, it was not a clean turn. It was not in the sense that I wasn't sure. But as I slowly started learning more and taking some classes and just meeting people, and I had a good mentor at the time who was, he was in the law enforcement field for decades, and he became a professor. And I'm still in touch with him. Matter of fact, I was talking to him for a couple of months ago after not talking to him for a few years. He changed my life as well. I did not know. I literally just trusted God. I followed what I believe, what my heart felt is the right thing to do. And I was placed in certain places and situations and times where eventually all that combined guided me in the right direction. That's what happened.
How did your family uh, take that in the beginning? Like when you first made the decision, hey, medical field is not for me.
I'm lucky in the sense that my family has a lot of trust in me. I had to grow up very quick based on the circumstances that I grew up in. Not to get into details, but growing up, I saw a lot of violence, domestic violence, drug addiction, alcoholism. So all that good stuff, man. All
Yeah,
that lovely stuff that I personally don't believe a child should see or
right.
experience. So I was forced to grow up quick, especially with the lack of father figures. I didn't have a father since I was 16 years old. My parents separated. And because I was forced to grow up quick and take on a lot of responsibilities, I developed a certain level of trust in my family. So when I finally broke it, told them what I'm going to do, they're like, okay, as long as you're happy, as long as it's what you want to do, that's cool. That's cool. So that, it was like a very nervous conversation to me that I was not looking forward to. But once it happened, I was like, oh, cool. All right. You guys are on board. We're solid. Let's move
Yeah,
forward.
that
Yeah,
is
it was
awesome.
not, it was not tough at all. It was not tough at all. And I didn't realize, to me, I really didn't realize how fast I had to grow up until this year, until, and I had one of the therapy sessions with my therapist. And I don't know if you ever had a therapy session with the professional. They ask you a lot of questions to see what your
So
background
many.
is from. Yeah, dude, wonderful. Dude,
Yes,
it's such a great experience, and I think everybody should do it. Doesn't matter if you had a
100%.
great life growing up or. And she's like, you were forced to grow up quick, and I was like, what you talking about? Like, yeah, your mentality. You're 35 right now, but you're speaking and you're thinking like somebody who's a lot older than you, and you just had to grow up really quick. And I sat there, I'm like, to me, it's normal. To me, seeing what I saw, experiencing what I experienced, and having to make the decisions and do what I did in life was like, I guess it's normal. Everybody does that. But she's like, no, that's not really normal. But it's good that all the trauma that you went through and had made you grow up and take a certain path in life. Because it's not coming from my culture. Being in law
Yeah,
enforcement is frowned upon. It's not respected. It's not something that, oh, wow, you should do it. No, it's a type of job that's no, nobody wants. So I had to kind of go against the grain, and it took me a while. It took me years to remove myself from a lot of relationships, including friends and family, and really, really disappear, like go ghost mode completely, because my past has caught up to me and almost cost me my career multiple times. Like came this close, purely based on my past, something
yeah,
what I've done, and based on what obviously I've done, and a lot of it was because it's just simple relationship with people and family that's like I came close. But again, the big guy upstairs had a plan for me, and I'm here
yeah.
today.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome. I hope I hope that if I think as a father, I have well, I don't yet, but I have all these hopes and dreams for my kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
That and my kids are 8, 7, 5, 5, and 4. So I'm not trying to put them into medical school today, but I have all these hopes and dreams, and I'll continue to grow as they grow, and I see what paths they're aligned with,
Mm-hmm.
and I hope that if they come to me and say, "Hey, this is not me," um, that I'll be able to respond in exactly the same way that you just described that your family responded. To be like, hey man, like if this is what's going to make you happy, then that's what I want for you. And I believe that the experience that I've had um, set me up to be in a better position for that. But I also am human, and so you never know. I mean, my dad. I went on a guy's trip with my dad and my brother last week, and they were kind of, they never ask what I've got going on, and or maybe they do, and I didn't share, but they started making comments about how I'm just a stay-at-home dad, and and in kind of in a, I mean, I know they love me, but kind of in a you should be doing more
Mm-hmm.
tone. And then when we, the next morning when I was like, hey, I got to work for about 4 hours before I can do anything, and that's when that's when I realized like that they have no idea what I'm doing, because they were like, what do you have to work on? Like, your kids aren't here. That I was like, well, I've started writing 2 books. I have a podcast that I'm working on. I've got to get this research done for Michelle for her next podcast. And they were like, I didn't know you had any of that stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I think whenever I decided to not be a lawyer, everybody was like, what the hell are you doing? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you are ruining your life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they're wrong. I'm very happy to not be practicing law, but I hope that I can respond better. Is all I was getting at. Kind of like the way that you described how your family responded is the perfect response. Like, that's the textbook, like
Yeah.
psychological textbook response. Like, that's what you want to happen. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Essentially, I think, and I'm not a father yet, but I think when I become a father, essentially, there's our job. Correct me if I'm wrong. Our job is to prepare them for the real world and give them enough education and information and pass on enough wisdom for them to make the best decision for themselves.
Yeah,
I think our parents are so focused on thinking what they know is best for us that they don't seem to understand sometimes that what they think is best for us is in reality not the best for us. So you have to be able to trust your child and understand that I've raised my child properly and with enough common sense and with good morals and values that whatever he or she chooses to do now to be happy will should by default make me happy. That's just my belief.
100%. No, that's what I agree. And that's what I mean, I can say that now. Like I can tell my wife all day long, and you and anyone else who wants to listen, that I don't care what my kids do as long as they're happy. I hope that, I mean, I care in the sense that whatever they do that makes them happy, needs to make enough money to cover their basic essentials.
Mm-hmm.
Food, shelter,
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. But beyond that, like I just don't care. And I think it's easier probably for us living now to to perceive or to conceptualize that, because there are limitless examples of people doing things that make no sense but are rich, like
Yeah.
wealthy,
Yeah.
because they're doing what they love. They've become really good at it, and while I might not find it interesting at all or understand how anybody else would find it interesting,
Mm-hmm.
there are enough people that find what they are doing to be interesting, that they get paid well to do it. So you can have an amazing living literally doing anything right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably like get some sandpaper and like have a YouTube channel where you just sand the corners off of
Yeah.
wood, you know,
Yeah.
and do it with passion and do it well, and you could probably make a lot of money doing that. And I'm just saying that because I'm sitting here at a table with rounded edges. But so it's the first thing that came to my head. But like
Yeah.
I think that anyone who is passionate about anything can has the opportunity right now um, to get really good at it and to turn it
Yeah.
into a real living.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with you. I agree with you because there's just so many people out there who truly do what they love and they're successful. But beyond that, I think it's true because that's what I did for myself.
Yeah,
That's what I did for myself. And to be quite honest with you, peace is a new success, man. Just to be able to have peace of mind, there's no price for it. Whether it's peace of mind, for yourself, in your family, in your relationship, in your career. Like I'm blessed to be here today to do the job that I truly enjoy, that I care about, that provides for me, and I do really well. And then on the side, I'm able to make enough money to do this,
yeah,
to be able to help others. I'm blessed. I'm beyond blessed. Every day I wake up and I say my gratitude for everything that I have in my life. So to me, that's important. And I could not imagine what I would have felt like if I was a doctor today. Maybe I would have loved it, but I know for a fact I would not have enjoyed it. So what I do, I love what I do. I care for it. It brings me joy. It makes me happy. There's never been a day where I feel like it's a drag, where I wake up in the morning like, oh my God, shoot me. I don't want to go to work. No, I wake up and I'm like, dude, I want to go to work. Every day is a different day. There's always something new. There's always something I can learn. There's always somebody I can help. And it makes my life meaningful and it makes me happy. So
yeah,
100% I agree with you. You have to do something that you love because we spend majority of our lives working. So if you pick a career path that you don't enjoy, does not make you happy, and you have to do that shit for 20, 30 or more years, and it makes you feel miserable, dude, that's like hell on earth.
right.
And it spills into everything in life, spills into your family, into your relationship, into everything, and the drinking and drug addiction, and all that misery starts. So I think it's important. It's really important to find something that you enjoy doing and to just give it your all.
Yeah,
I
that's
think I
awesome.
think I think you're already making a big difference, man. Just by your post being shared 34,000 times,
Yeah,
man. I can tell you right now, it's a domino effect. You change one life, and that person might change one more life, and that person might change 1,000 lives. But it all started with you. But it all started. I don't know about you, but for me, it started with somebody else who changed my life. So I'm very
yeah,
grateful and thankful for the mentors that I have and the people I come across, such as yourself, because that leaves a mark on my life, and it makes me want to be a better person and pass that to somebody else.
yeah. I agree. And that kind of gets into like that same thought process as I was trying to figure out this podcast that I've started. It was rolling around my head for a couple of years, and to do something on fatherhood, and I had this imposter syndrome because you're not going to get 3 days in a row where if you happen to walk into my garage, you don't hear me yelling at one of my kids or five of my kids. So just like who am I to be talking about fatherhood? And I realize that that's normal. I don't. Um, Yelling at my kids is about the limit of my discipline, but so it's not excessive, but still, like it makes me feel guilty. Like I want to be better,
Mm-hmm.
and finally it clicked, man. Like I have an opportunity to just talk to other fathers
Mm-hmm.
and ask them about how they do things and to learn, and in me learning how to be better, to share that. So it doesn't have to be about me, just getting up and talking about like all the things that I think it takes to be a great father, um, while at the same time risking, giving my kid a dirty look in church because he won't sit down and shut up. And people being like, that's the guy that talks about fatherhood. Did you see how he just looked at his kid? Um, but, this is just an opportunity to say, hey, like, tell me about how you, um, like how what has impacted and framed you as a father. What do you
Mm-hmm.
think is going
Mm-hmm.
to are the marks and let other people answer that question so that I can just learn from them, and in learning, become a better father myself for my kids. And if anybody else wants to watch that
Mm-hmm.
and, and get anything out of it themselves, that's
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. And if that's the way that God's asking me to serve, is by putting myself out there as on the ignorant side of it, like,
Yeah.
hey man, I need help. I need you to tell me how I can be a better father. Then I'm willing to do that. And that's that domino effect that you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about, like putting myself in a position to learn to be better from other people, and in doing so, putting it out there for other people in case one other person might get something out of it.
Yeah. No, I think you should. I think you 100% should. It's funny. I'm gonna tell you something about the dirty look. I think I read this somewhere or something, but I know for a fact I've implemented it into my own life. I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and I realized that if you train them, I don't want to say train because they're not pets, but they're human beings. But if you figure out how to train them with the look, you never have to resort to disciplining them physically. Just that look is a
Yeah,
powerful tool. Like you give them one look. I remember like my dad would give me the look,
yeah,
dude. Like, and after that look, an ass whooping is coming, so you don't want it. But you
right.
give him the look, and I think Byron talked about that. Like when he gives his son the look, and the son already knows that shit. If I don't
Yeah,
fix my shit right now, there's going to be an ass whooping. So to me, I know for a fact because I've used that with my nieces and nephews. You master the look, you don't ever have
yeah.
to discipline them physically. So yeah, man, it's a powerful tool.
And I think training is, I don't think training's bad. I mean, you train, I train,
Yeah.
we're both training our minds and our bodies every day. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's okay to say training. And on that note, I do it with a snap too. I'll
Mm-hmm.
snap my fingers, and my kids will look, and it gets their attention. But like, it's gotten to the point where they hear the snap and they just know they're probably stepping across a line,
Yeah.
and they self correct. So I'm in church one day. My oldest son was probably 2, so we were in the cry room, and it was full. So we're standing against the wall, and he is just kind of walking back and forth, and against the wall. And there's a bathroom. The church bathroom is in there, and so this girl, she was probably 14 years old, starts walking past us. I didn't even notice her. Starts walking past us to go to the bathroom. My son did something, and I snapped. She immediately stood straight up, and she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I tell that story because all I can think since then is, like, I'm clearly not the only person that snaps to get my kids' attention.
No.
Like, I snapped, and she was like, she just immediately thought she was doing something wrong.
Oh, I love it. So consciously train them, but yeah,
That's right.
I'm gonna use the snap. I'm gonna use the snap. I love it. I just want to add something. I think, you know, I'm gonna be honest with you, the way I was raised and the way I look at certain things as far as being a man, that I do believe that men should have things in their lives. And like you said, providing and protecting can have include a variety of different things. So I say this to say that at the end of the day, homestay dad or not, you're still doing things, you still have purpose, you're still changing the world, you're creating instead of consuming. And I'm very proud of you for doing so. And especially because nowadays we need more fathers. Like I'm very obsessed with the topic of masculinity, which by default includes manhood, leadership, fatherhood, right? Accountability, and all that. And I've looked into obviously history, I've looked into society, I've looked at the socioeconomic aspects of it, and I've come to a conclusion that at the end of the day, everything stems down to one simple thing: masculinity. And the fact that we lack fathers out there is the main reason why this entire society is collapsing. And I'll say collapsing because we're moving at such high rate of speed towards our demise that there's no better word to describe it. Because if we're going to continue on this path at this speed, we're going to collapse. And history will repeat itself. It's just people don't freaking understand what it means. They don't know history. It's very lopsided in this country. And I was able to, I'm blessed to have been educated in a different country and come here and have see this side of the educational system. So whenever I see people like yourself or even Leighton Cook, right? You know,
Yeah.
his company, he's all about fatherhood. He's a very bright young man. And anybody out there who preaches the topic of masculinity and leadership and fatherhood, to me, is doing the Lord's work, because we're in such massive shortage of true manhood, true men and fathers out there that this entire society is collapsing. So I salute you for what you're doing. I think we need more people out there like yourself. And I'm gonna tell you right now, and I had a call with Nate earlier today. I told him too, when I have kids, I'm gonna come to you guys, because I respect fathers like you, Nate, Byron. There's a handful of other dudes out there who are great fathers. And I will be asking you guys questions, because I don't know what the hell I'm doing when this little creature will be born. And I was like, shit, it eats, it poops, and it cries, man. Like, what do I do with
Yeah.
it? It will be scary. So I salute you for doing so, man. And there's no shame in the game. And I think you're doing the Lord's work. And I think you're changing lives, and continue to do what you do with the whole fatherhood project, man. We need more fathers. This world needs more fathers out there.
Well, I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
I just want to say that.
I think that's a big deal. I appreciate that.
Of course, man. Of course. I just want to ask you. There's a couple of questions I always ask to all my
Yeah.
guests before we close off. Then the question is, what do you think is the true purpose in life? It's a two-part question. First one is,
Okay.
what do you think is the true purpose in life? And the second question is, for those who are having a hard time finding their purpose and meaning in life, how do you find it?
Man, those are amazing questions. Um, so the first question is, what is the true purpose? Like, not my purpose, but what is the purpose of life, right?
Correct. The purpose
Yeah.
and meaning of life,
So
yeah.
so I think, man, I think the purpose of life, and I mean, this might sound cliche, but this is where I am in my life right now, and this is what I believe. I think the purpose in life is to serve others. Um, and that doesn't necessarily mean anything on like this giant grand scale of, you know, I'm dedicating my life to doing everything that I do for another person, which just sounds super overwhelming and impossible. But it also does mean that, because if we go through life, and it can be so small, it can be as small as a smile, that serves another person, because you don't know, like, anything. Like, we don't know anything about anybody else. And I mean, and I have to have this internal dialogue all the time, because, um, you know, I oftentimes get to have it out loud, because my kids will ask me questions, but, in so small as being at a stop sign, and the person in front of me waiting for the stop sign to turn green. Well, the stop sign's not going to turn green. And so me honking, and my kids, asking, why did you honk? And me explaining that the person in front of me didn't move, and it was their turn to go, and they weren't paying attention. And, and for all of the amazing things that my parents have, patience is not my dad's strong suit. And so, he, along with probably the majority of society today, honking at somebody, is then going to spend the next 5 minutes in their head or out loud in the car complaining about why that person is just a horrible person for not going. But what I want to do for my kids is, I want to put in their heads that, maybe that person just got a phone call that they weren't expecting, that some bad news. Maybe they're waiting on a phone call, from somebody that they're concerned about. Um, maybe, I don't know, man, maybe they dropped their water bottle cap and they were just trying to find it and didn't
Hmm.
realize that they'd been sitting there long enough. But whatever it is, it doesn't affect me. And if I'm living a life where I have to be somewhere so badly that I can't wait 10 seconds for the person in front of me, to go, then whether people want to hear this or not, like, it's my problem. Like, I'm
Hmm.
living something wrong. Like, I need
Hmm.
to peel back the layers on that and figure out like why I'm in such a rush to be somewhere all the time.
Yeah.
And if the reason I'm in such a rush is because I just got a bad phone call, then if anything, I should be more understanding that maybe the person in front of me is having a hard time. But it then can go beyond that to the guy on the side of the road with the sign, begging for money. I mean, when I was 18, man, I knew everything, and super conservative for an 18-year-old who has no life experience, and to the point of get a job. Like, that was, I never said that to anyone, but like, that was my thought process. Like, you're lazy, get a job. um and then I became homeless, right? And I never got to the point where I was begging from people I didn't know, but I certainly got to the point where I was begging from people I did know. um and uh and so it's become very important to me to to serve others and my own kids by every time I see somebody and I have any money at all, to roll down my window, and give them, what I got, and it doesn't matter how much it is. It's the point of, no matter how much it is, I don't need it right now as bad as this person does, and I don't care what they do with it. I don't. The people argue about, like, well, they're just going to go buy liquor. That's not my problem. My job at this point in my life is to help people in whatever way I can, and if that's the choice that they make, then they're dealing with it the way they have to deal with it. And uh, so while I have to be honest in saying that I fail every day, multiple times a day. Um, I really believe that the purpose in life is to serve others, and in serving others, we are serving ourselves.
Hmm.
And so that's what I think. That's why I think we're here. I think that we are here to help other people to have a better life, and in
Hmm.
doing so, that helps us to have a better life as well. I mean, imagine if everyone took that view, that we are here to help the guy next to us. It's going to come back around to us, even though it's not meant to be a selfish thought. Um, but just imagine, and now that I'm saying that, I realize that Jordan Peterson said something really similar. He said something to the effect of, if what if we just tried to make the world a little bit better, and then what if everyone else did that too? So I don't want to give the appearance that I think that's an original thought, but that's what I think the answer to your question is.
And how do you think a person can find purpose and meaning in life?
I think it takes two things. I think it takes prayer, um, and I think it takes belief. Prayer, whether, and let's just move away from the religious aspect for anyone who may not be a religious person. For me, it's prayer, but it can be meditation, journaling, getting out of everything and into now, right? Like getting out of shutting down the noise. Um, and that's what prayer is to me. It's gotta be quiet. Shutting out the noise and kind of focus, like intense focus on, what's going on in life. What am I trying to achieve in life? What do I need to be able to do to achieve that in life? Um, you know, what can help me? And I would in prayer ask it more in questions like, please help me to know what it is that I'm missing, that I need to do so that I can get to the point where I'm supposed to be. But then belief that you have a purpose, like, because asking to be able to find that purpose when you don't believe that you have a purpose is pointless.
Mhm.
I think that we obviously all have a purpose. Um, I think that maybe sometimes people get too stuck on the societal views of greatness and miss the greatness that comes with normal life. And I think that our purpose doesn't have to be um you know being a an Instagram superstar, um or you know whatever purpose people want to have. I mean, I think that we all have a purpose, and understanding and believing that um if we are serving others, then we are fulfilling that purpose. Then when we pray to find it, we can see it in the smallest things. And once we start seeing it in the small things, it's a compounding interest. Once we start seeing in the small things that we are achieving that purpose, then it opens up our minds or our hearts to seeing the next opportunity, which may be bigger, you know, and that all kind of trickles into that whole opportunity from God or abundance mindset, excuse me, or whatever it is that people choose to call it. Um, that's the best answer I can give you, man.
That's amazing, man. So prayer and belief, prayer and belief. I love it. I love it. Yeah, you have to essentially believe in what you're praying for.
Yeah,
Like you said, there's no point of prayer if you don't believe in what you're asking for. That's
right.
amazing.
Like all those hollow prayers that I told you about before when I was like, Lord, if you just help me get through this, I'll never do drugs again. Like,
Yeah,
I didn't believe that.
yeah,
Like, I mean, I wanted it, but I didn't believe it.
yeah.
So, because I knew I was addicted to drugs. And so, so that's just kind of hollow prayer, versus, something that you truly believe in. I mean, I believe that I want to be a better dad tomorrow than I am today, and I pray that God helps me to do that. But I also, I think there might be a third component in that, and that would be, acceptance that 1% is still improvement, you know,
One
like I
percent
want to
better
be a
every day.
better dad. Yeah. Like I want to be a better dad tomorrow. And I pray that I'm a better dad tomorrow. But I don't think that means that if I yell at my kids tomorrow, that I necessarily didn't achieve that. Like
Hmm.
there could be other things that have happened, you know, even if it's the fact that I recognize the difference between what I'll refer to as necessary yelling and unnecessary yelling, I guess.
Hmm.
I think, I don't know, man. I feel like this conversation with you has set me up to be better tomorrow than I was when I started today. You
I
know,
love it.
and then you got to take it. Maybe there's 4 things. I don't know, man. Maybe I should just start a list of all the things it takes
You should.
to
You should.
achieve your purpose or to
Yeah.
find your purpose.
You should, man.
You gotta pray. You gotta believe. You gotta know that 1% is better. And then I don't remember what the 4th one was.
And we should have put it in your book.
Yes.
No, I agree with everything you said.
Yes.
Now, and then before we close off, man, how? And I don't know if your podcast or your website or whatever you're working on, your project is up. But if there's people out there or fathers out there or men or whoever, if they need advice or they can have some questions for you, how can they find you? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah. On Instagram, it is the Father's Calling, all one word. And I chose the Father's Calling because for 2 reasons. I believe number one that it is a call to fatherhood, and I think that by acknowledging that it is a call to fatherhood, that that puts pressure on us as fathers to answer the call, to be active rather than to be passive in it. And I think that that's what it takes, to achieve great fatherhood. At least for me, I have to be active in it and intentional every day. And the other is, because I believe that God, the Father, is calling us to greatness. And so the Father's Calling is where it's at right now on YouTube. It's the same. The first episode will go live next Tuesday. Is that the 7th? 7th. November 7th. I think that's next Tuesday.
Awesome. Awesome.
So, but if somebody wants to get a hold of me, Instagram, without giving out my cell phone number, Instagram, the Father's Calling is probably the
email, maybe
quickest way to do it. Yeah. Or Sean at the website, which is also a blog, is called thefatherscalling.com. So
Sean
yes, so I've localized it all to the Father's Calling. So Sean at thefatherscalling.com would be the email that I can be reached at.
Awesome, and I'll drop all that information in the comment section below, so people who have questions, they'll be able to reach out to you. I'll put it all out there. And yeah, brother, listen, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for this beautiful message that you had, everything you shared with us. I think, like I said, your story is powerful and your calling is true and genuine, and I believe in it. And thank you, man, for everything you share with us. And I got mad love and respect for you, man.
Thank you. I really enjoy this. I always love talking to you. I think you got so much positive energy, and it's hard for me not to smile and laugh as we talk. So that's a really good thing. I think I could smile talking to you without even looking at your hat.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. Hey, you have a beautiful smile, dude. So you should be smiling. And
Thank
for
you.
all
You
of you
too.
guys out there, what? Go ahead.
I said you too.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you. And for all you guys out there, if you find this episode or message in this episode useful or helpful, please click like, share, and subscribe to my channel. At the end of the day, thank you for being part of our journey, and I'm blessed and happy to be here and share and being able to speak to people like Sean. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, all the viewers, and I'll see you guys next time.